Hey everybody, and welcome to How-To Videos with Dr. Amy Gates. This video is the first in a series of several videos that will talk about how to take the data that you collect using a Google form, how to download that data into Excel on your computer, and then how to do statistical analysis on that data. If you have questions about how to create a form or how to use a form, there's a separate how-to video for that, and you can check that out. Once you do create a form, and once people start filling out that form, you'll notice that inside of your drive, you'll see the name of your form and another document which is automatically created, which is the responses for that form. So here's what that looks like quickly. This is a form that you may have created. It's a bunch of questions, and one of the things that you really want to think about when you create a form specifically to collect data is what do you want that data to look like, and what types of questions are you going to try to answer with that data. For example, I have questions here like rank your feelings at the start of class and rank your feelings at the end of class, and I've decided to use numbers here as my categories. And later we'll talk about in one of the videos in this series how to do a paired data t-test to determine if there's a significant difference in feelings before and at the end of class, just as an example. So one of the key ideas when you do collect data specifically to do analysis on is what questions are you trying to answer? What's your goal of collecting that data? So once you've created your form and once you've collected all that data, you can send people a link to that form. And of course, if you've seen forms before, when they get the link, it looks a lot like this. They'll fill out all of their information. And when they submit the form, all of their data goes into this responses area in the drive. And so if you open up the responses area in the drive, you'll see all of the data. And so I went through and in this example filled out this particular form over and over and over again with fictitious data so that we could see what this looks like. And we can see here that whatever questions you create in your form, the entire question is placed up here in the responses. So here's the what is your age, here's the rank your feelings in the start of class, rank your feelings at the end of class, and so on. So inside of your drive, that responses area, that responses document, which again is automatically created by Google. You do not have to create it. It will just be there once somebody fills out your form online. Once you collect or gather all of the data into this area, you can then download this data into an Excel document on your computer. My recommendation is don't alter or change the data here in the drive. Leave the responses as they are because this will always be your raw data. So you'll never change it, you'll never lose it. It'll always be up on the drive. To get this onto your computer, you click File, and then Download As, and then Microsoft Excel. And when you do that, it'll open up this data, almost identically as we see it here, onto your actual computer. And it will look something like this, but perhaps not exactly. Here's what I've done with this particular data. When it first downloaded as Excel, all of the labels for each of my columns were very lengthy because instead of saying age, for example, it said, what is your age? And instead of saying things like feelings start or feelings end, it said something like, what were your feelings at the start of class? What were your feelings at the end of class? So the first thing that you can do when you download your data from the drive onto your computer as Excel is you can make the fields or the column names nice and small and concise so that you know what they represent. So this is my gender, hours studied, age, final exam score, nice and concise and easy for me to understand because this is my data. The next thing that you can do is you can sort this data if you wish. For example, I may want to make comparisons for my students in this case for gender. Right now you can see that this is not sorted by gender. I've got some male users, I've got female users. But if I want to, I can click up here to highlight the gender column. And I can come across the top to the sort, which is in the data area. And I can just put this in sorted order so that it shows my females first and then my males. So when I click to sort this, it tells me, well, I don't think you just want to sort this column. I think you want to sort everything at once. And it's absolutely correct. So I'm going to let it expand the selection, and then I'm going to allow it to sort. So it sorted the entire data set. Now all of my female users are first, followed by my males. And so this makes it a lot easier for me. Let's say I want to run a t-test, or let's say I want to do a correlation that compares the genders. Maybe I want to compare final exam scores. Maybe I want to compare project scores, and so on. I can also sort by any other field. I can sort by whether their parents attended college or not, for example. And so once you have your data inside of Excel and on your computer, you can essentially do whatever you want with it without worrying that the original raw data is going to get corrupted or destroyed or lost. Because that original data is still on your drive, right back in that area where your responses were. So nothing's going to change or happen to that data. So that's step one, is getting that data from the drive onto your computer and saved as an Excel document. The next step is, what kind of information are you trying to gain from your data? And that's actually a key question because statistical analysis is nothing more than a tool. You are in charge, and so it's going to be up to you to say things like, well, I want to create a pivot table, for example, where I can get a better look at final exam score averages to compare males and females, or project score averages. So a pivot table is something that we're in one of our next how-to videos. You may want to compare averages. For example, you may wonder if there's a significant difference between how students are doing on their final exam versus their project. If you're looking at comparing differences between means, the best thing to use is a t-test. One of our next how-to videos in this series will cover how to use the t-test. You may want to look and see if there's a correlation, for example, between the age of a person and the number of hours they study, or maybe the age of a person and how they did on the project, etc. Correlation will be a topic of another one of the how-to videos for this series. So if you want to learn about each one of these possibilities, check out the next how-to video in this series. Thanks for joining me and getting started.